now. I know all the right things to do. Like I ate well during my pregnancy for 9 months. I would go home every day. I was living in California at the time, and I lived literally like right across the street from my job, which never happens in L.A., right?
Right.
I would go home. I would exercise. I would get in the pool. I would swim. And then, almost as soon as she was born, it's like, boom. It's like right back to the old ways. I raised her eating, a healthy. She makes good food choices, but for some reason, I can't keep that routine for myself. So what is it about?
This is really key.
Yeah.
You were pregnant with her. What was your motivation to eat healthy?
Well, I wanted to have a healthy pregnancy. I wanted to have a healthy daughter, and I wanted to start teaching her while she was in the womb.
There you go. So you just hit on a key piece, right? If we can find, yeah, there you go. That'll do it. So here's the thing, right? So this was a really powerful motivator for you.
Yes.
And then once you'd safely accomplished that goal, the motivation fell away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you weren't going to directly biologically adversely impact her.
Yes.
But if we can find reasons, the equivalent of that, to maintain. So an example for me would be, I decided I was going to teach a class in weight management. It was called Wait, Don't Weigh Me. And in order to actually teach that class, I decided, I can't really show up as a guy who's like unable to manage his weight. I've got to actually walk my talk. So for the 4 months in preparing for that class, I was on a really healthy regimen. And I showed up for the class, reasonably trim. And then I taught it again. And in the year between the two classes, I had managed to put weight back on. But then the class was coming up, and I said, well, if I'm going to walk my talk, I need to weigh less than I weighed the first time I taught this class. So that's how you can structure your world and find sufficient motivation or create sufficient motivation to override the impulse control that we often lack.
Okay. That's great. That's really clear. Thank you. That's very helpful. And congratulations to you for, showing up trim and walking your talk, and you continue to do that. So let me ask you this, Mark. What is the connection between addiction, because we all have habits. We all have habits that are not good for us. Sometimes they're good for us, but the addiction, the repetition beyond our impulse control, so to speak. What's the connection between addiction and weight management? Wonderful nuggets. Thanks to Dr. Mark Brady for being my guest. This is part 1 of a 2-part show. If you'd like to learn more about Mark's work, you can visit his blog site. It's called The Flowering Brain. The Flowering Brain. You can find it by Googling him. Just type in The Flowering Brain, Flowering, Brain, Brain, and Mark Brady's name. His last name is spelled B as in boy, Brady. All right. Check out some of his blog posts. They're pretty interesting and fascinating in terms of how he turns all of this research, which would make, most of us, kind of wiggly or make our head explode in some cases, right? But he makes it accessible. He brings it down into a language that, most of us can understand. Mark has also written a number of books. Now, what I love about his books on listening is that they're deep and they're also practical and accessible. Check out his 3-book series called The Fierce Listening Trilogy. You can also reach out to my guest via email. Mark's email is floweringbrain@gmail.com. floweringbrain@gmail.com. So join me next week for Part 2. Part 2, where we'll hear more from my special guest, Dr. Mark Brady. He'll join me next week to share more about his amazing work as a transpersonal neurobiologist. Today, we talked about the brain and its connection to weight loss. Next week, we'll learn more about the importance of rewiring your brain, not only for weight loss, but how it applies to just every single arena of your life. Now, as I just mentioned, Part 2 of this show, It's Not Your Fault, will air next week, right here on Talk Network Radio. Now, you know that in my work, I'm a former executive in the corporate and human services sector, and I'm also a speaker and teacher and artist. So I really enjoy talking about the importance of the arts in our culture, as well as in integrating the arts into my work. Actually, this week, I'm launching another new course in transformational leadership. Now, when I was designing the course, I thought about, how much fun it would be to integrate the arts into it, especially arts that require us to get up and move. And even though I was already aware of the importance of art and music and movement and so on, my conversation with Dr. Brady underscored the significance and that it's really a difference maker for how students learn, how we all learn, right? So, for all of my listeners out there who are teachers or coaches or consultants or parents, listen up. Movement helps to rewire your brain. Movement helps to build more connections in your brain. Movement actually helps to grow your brain. Okay? Now, just a few days ago, I was attending a leadership conference that was all about transformation. And one of the key aspects of transformation is personal growth. Think about it. If you want to transform your relationships or your family or your friendships or your team at work or your organization, guess what? You first have to transform you. You have to transform yourself. And one way to do that is to grow yourself spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, and physically. Now, you've heard me say this before. How you live is how you lead. How you live is how you parent or coach or teach or worship or garden or cook or ride your bicycle or even how you park your car. So here's a question for you and for me as well. Ask yourself this question. How am I growing myself? And how am I growing my brain? Great questions, aren't they? Remember this. How you live is how you lead. In other words, wherever you go, there you are. Now, again, I want to give a shout-out to Dr. Mark Brady for being my guest this week for part 1 of our 2-part show. If you'd like to learn more about Mark's work or just send him a message, you can connect with him on his blog. It's called The Flowering Brain. You can Google that, The Flowering Brain, along with his name, Mark Brady, Brady. And you can also email Mark at floweringbrain@gmail.com. floweringbrain@gmail.com. Now, if you missed last week's show or any part of this week's broadcast, you can listen to the recording at your convenience. You can even listen to it on the go. Wow, how about that? Check us out at www.talknetworkradio.com/legacyliving.html. That's LEGACYLIVING.html. Now, you can also find me on iTunes, SoundCloud, Alexa, and many, many other places. Now, before I close today, I want to thank each of you for tuning in to today's show, for allowing me to share a bit of my journey with what legacy living is all about. Not just living and learning, but living and learning and serving so that you make a difference in your own life and in the lives of others. It's about being on purpose every single day, 365, 24/7. Legacy living is one of the many ways to make your life count. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, and this has been Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. Please join me again next week, right here on Talk Network Radio for another show of Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. We're here again next week, right here, Talk Network Radio. Remember, don't just count the days in your life. Make the days in your life count. That's what legacy living is all about. Have a fantastic day. And remember, don't just count the days in your life. Make the days in your life count. God bless you. That's our show today. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess. I hope you'll join me again next week. Until then, don't just count the days in your life. Make the days in your life count. That's what legacy living is all about. Here's to you. Have a fantastic day. Be sure to make it a yes kind of day. And remember, celebrate. Celebrate the music of your life. Make the days in your life count.